This is on the voice of customer. Customer is very important, and they want to be listened, otherwise they will run away. I always give Starbucks as take Starbucks as an example. How good is the relationship between barista and the customer? There is a book explain about that. Experience of customer, experience of Starbucks, how Starbucks barista, they know exactly what the preference of their customer. Or this guy, he will come every 10:30 in the morning, and this guy will ask for the double shot of coffee latte. I also prefer double shot when I go to Rijal in UTM. Okay, the barista know exactly the taste of their customer, of their regular customer, and from there, the communication happen. So from there, the customer can share what their expectation to the barista and to the manager of the company and so on. That's the example for Starbucks. Many companies also implementing the good thing with their customer. Power of customer journey thinking. Your customer are on a journey. Help them. Companies and customers don't see eye to eye. So this company must have a problem. Don't see eye to eye. So you must see eye to eye. How? It's like someone from the Earth, someone from the Mars. So company focus on very narrow, internally oriented view of what customer are trying to accomplish. So how we want to get customer and companies together? This kind of advertisement, just sharing with you.
Subject here. Transported. Okay, go, go, go. Oh.
Mr. Smith, there's a message for you outside.
About you. I think there is a new video about this advertisement. When the boy is grow up and then he continues with the video. But I don't have that video. Yes, I will. I've recorded the lecture. And customer, I think I also mentioned many times before, we have two types of customer. Even one of the quality guru, if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Jurang also mentioned the same. Customer, we have two types of customer. Internal customer, that is your employee, which you have to fulfill their needs before they will fulfill the end user, the external customer. So we cannot neglect our employee. So they should be satisfied first before they satisfy the external customer. And the external customer will bring you money, revenue to your company. Voice of customer. What is customer-driven quality? Customer-driven quality. We have to be proactive to what their expectation, what they are expecting. We have proactive enough to approach to satisfy our customer. So before they tell us, we should ask them first. We should empathy. The correct word is empathy. Empathy to the customer. Nowadays, during social media era, we can communicate very easily to the customer to get feedback from them. And if customer not happy, they can kill us immediately through the social media. I was told by my student, he worked in China as a CEO in one company in China. He said there are 100 automotive industry in China. Besides Geely, Alado that we heard in Malaysia, we see in Malaysia, there are more than that, more brands, car brand. But that company can collapse by overnight because of the customer. Their customer are very strong over there. So as customer-driven quality company, we should gather data about customer. Now is the era of informatics, analytics, big data. Again, I would like to take example on AirAsia. In 1990s, they started their business with, they were RM1 company. They hire aircraft, but now they already have their aircraft, but due to the pandemic, they have problem with their business. Very recently, they gave a layoff to the pilot beginning from January to March. They cut 75% of the salary for pilot. But their strength is, since 1990s, they started the online ticketing. We never expect when we bought ticket, Asia ticket online, they capture our data. Not just capture data, they introduce a big membership, and then they introduce their Santa or whatever. So they link to the Facebook, to the Instagram, and from there also using the artificial intelligence, they use machine learning. They are able to understand our needs. They can profile ourselves, they can classify ourselves. So using the data analytics, they can get the information. So information is very important. Dr. Deming also mentioned many companies, they are full of data, poor of information. So we need to analyze data, convert into information, data about customer. And AirAsia did that. That's why they managed to profile the customer, and then they know this guy, what is the interest of this guy? What their interest about food, about interest about sport or whatever. And then as company-driven quality, as a customer-driven quality company, we should provide product services that satisfy the customer. That's why big data analytics is very important, because you want to know the needs, how to satisfy them. And this is the pitfall of reactive customer driven quality. I would like to share with you about this chart. Maybe this is more academics, but it shows you the region of complacency, then dissatisfaction, quality, and time. This is what we are supplying. This is our ability. We must know when we are no longer relevant to the customer. So this is your expectation, customer expectation. So we must know when is this T. Because same like innovation, our S curve. So we should think to change our services or product in order to make them satisfied, because their expectation has changes. And how to listen to the voice of customer? We can use this customer relationship management. How we are going to get a complaint, the feedback, and give guarantees, and how to do the corrective action. So these are interrelated, as you see here. Customer relationship management. But we have gap in order to fulfill the customer. Gap between desired level means what they expect and what we can give. That's a problem. So before we are no longer relevant, before our performance, our actual performance is lower than their desired level, so we should improve. That's why customer relationship management is very important, because we want to know when we are no longer relevant. Because when we are here, we start to feel that next 6 months we are no longer relevant, so we have to do the correction, do the alignment. I would like to share with you on the Nokia experience, where Nokia underestimate the competitors, where at that time they were comfortable with Symbian language, with the candy block telephone, but later the competitors use touch screen with other operating system. But they underestimate the competitors, or people will not use, it's not practical using the touchscreen telephone. It's big. Candy bar telephone is practical, small. Symbian language is very robust. But see what happened? And when Nokia wants to catch up the trend, they are too late, because Samsung, Apple already dominated the market. So we have to identify the gap, and when we have to do the gap analysis, because you want to know how to correct the gap. This is the example. Gap approach to system design. How do we get the information? From word of mouth, among customers, personal needs, past experience, and so on. So after we identify the gap or needs from our source of information, maybe we ask around, we distribute survey, we use Google Form, or any other electronic data collection, then we have to classify among a lot of keywords that we receive, we classify. And this example, they managed to classify into 5. First one, expected service versus management perception of customer expectation. So what are those keywords? Management perception of consumer expectation versus service quality specification. What are the keywords related to this? They classify into 5. Service quality versus service delivery. What are those requirements? Service delivery versus external communication to customer. What are the keywords? Expected service versus perceived service. What are the words? So we collect the words told by the survey, and then we classify based on this operating definition, OD. So from here, we can identify the gaps about the voice of customer. Or we can use this as well, besides this. When we ask the customer, same thing, the keywords that we get from the customer, after we have classified into 5 gaps, then we can plot in this chart, customer perception, relative important, highly important, low important, customer perception, good or bad. Customer perception good, important high. So we put here relative strength 1. Customer perception good, not very important. So don't bother about this, waste your time, waste your resource. Or customer don't want this, very poor, and also not important, minor annoyances. So ignore this also. But this one, if it is important, but in terms of customer, maybe they don't have knowledge, but their perception is poor. Sometimes as company, we cannot always rely on their perception. Maybe because of they don't know, they don't get enough information. So we as a company, we should educate the customer as well. Because maybe we know this is important, this is good, but they don't know. So that is an opportunity for you. Because many, maybe because of your competitor, they don't realize the good thing about this. Maybe they also influenced by the customer perception. But you know that this is good. If we can introduce in Malaysia, it can maybe reduce accident, for example, reduce the electricity bill, for example, or whatever. So how do you use your approach to give awareness, education to the customers so that their perception from poor will become good, then you can get the benefits. Because you are the one who start to introduce them. I think there are many in Malaysia. For example, if we remember before we have e-hailing, but who started the e-hailing in Malaysia? During that time, the customer perception on e-hailing was poor. But that company, they try to educate the public. Why we need to buy car while we are not using the car every day? So why do we use e-hailing, for example? Socar also, they educate the customer, give awareness. Initially, we thought that we need to buy a car, although we drive the car just once a month. If we want to rent a car, it's very difficult to find rent car. Why don't we? Now we have Socar, go to Justco, we pay using apps, we rent a car. Or maybe we want to go from one place to another place, driving, we don't want to take taxi, we use Socar. So that is another among example I can say about how to educate, to change the customer perception from poor to good, then we can get the benefits. There's a gap analysis model as well. And we go back to AirAsia. With their apps, they introduced since 1990s. From the data that they collected from the customer, it helps them to use to segment the market. Santan business, how to introduce Santan business, then restaurant and so on. So they have their data. So from there they can segment you. Same goes to the Facebook. If you notice the advertisement in your Facebook account is different than your friend. Or YouTube. YouTube channel, proposed YouTube channel, yours is different than others. Because they have the artificial intelligence, the machine learning to understand you, and then they segment you to according to your needs. That's what I mean by segment market. They distinguish you based on your characteristic. So nowadays, very easy to segment segmentize the customers. The goal of supply chain is customer satisfaction. This is on the supply chain. Okay, supply chain. This is example of supply chain before reach you as customer. This is raw material. How supply chain fulfill the customer needs, from farm to plates, from farm to glass, from the sea for fish. From the sea, you will get your fish on a plate and no smell on the fish, although it is raw. How to ensure that from your supply chain? Because you want to fulfill your customer satisfaction. So definitely we will not eat raw fish in Malaysia. But I eat raw fish, raw prawn, raw crab in Japan. Why? Because it has no smell. Because the supply chain. How do they manage supply chain in order to fulfill customer satisfaction? This is the method communicating downstream, voice of customer. We do customer rationalization, entity relationship, active data gathering, passive data gathering, and so on. But now with the help of big data, informatics, so this becomes very easy. The previous those days they used telephone contact, but no, now we no longer use telephone contact because no one will entertain you, but you can get the information from the media, social media, Instagram, Facebook, and so on. 3M did the focus group. They have identified who are, this case study was on the medical equipment, 3M. They want to find out the breakthrough innovation. So they know already their customers, permanent regular customer. So they call upon their regular customer. Of course, they have to pay for the customer service. Then call the customer to do the brainstorming, and finally the customer managed to give them breakthrough innovation and also some incremental innovation. Customer service survey also popular nowadays, but now people start to use electronic. Telephone contact nowadays is no longer relevant. And this is kind of analysis, but nowadays we use this analysis in the apps, in the software. So we expect like this. So when we do survey, we want to know what is exactly customer wants, and then it is valid. Rather than like this, it's a waste of effort. We can use customer research card as well, customer response line, website inquiries. There are many ways to get the customer feedback. And what is the difference between customer retention and customer loyalty? Retention, this is the indicator when they are satisfied. I think you yourself are the same. You will come back to get more service, or you want to repeat the service if you are satisfied. And this is different because they are loyal. Maybe because of you are so specialized to them, they can get your replacement. But this is very important. This is the indicator when they come again to you. There are a lot of ways to get the voice of customer. What is voice of customer? It is stated here. Describe customer needs and their perception of your order product and services. Critical to your company because you want to decide what a product they want, what are the services they want. You want to identify critical features, spec that you want to give them, and your improvement, what you need to do for improvement. And then you want to have the baseline to measure the satisfaction. And I will further show you this when we go to quality function deployment. And you want to know also the driver for your customer satisfaction. This is type of customer voices, as I mentioned before. And voice of customer based on Honshin Gangri is critical to your vision. So you must do alignment based on customer requirement, because without them, you never exist. So we have one approach. There are actually many approaches to identify voice of customer. I would like to use this approach, CPOP. If you remember the ISO 9001 2015 that I've shown you just now, it's mentioned about this as well. Supplier input process, or in that ISO document, they call it process or what? System, something like that. Output and then customer. So from your quality planning that you have done before, please develop this CPOP. So please identify several processes that you can draw the CPOP. What is CPOP diagram? To map or provide big picture of the process and group involved with it. So by having CPOP, you can see their input and output. Okay. Supplier, S. Who are the supplier? Organization, person or department that fit or give input to that process, who provide input to that particular process activity. Maybe they give information, they give material or whatever. And process what you want to do, steps. And from that process, what is the output? They give what? After the process, what they get, what they produce. And produce, give to who? The customer. So that's what you have to show in your CPOP diagram. This is an example. A recruitment process. Maybe this CPOP belong to the human resource department. So recruitment process, what recruitment, recruiting new staff. In recruiting new staff, what do we have? The processes. First, after we receive the application, we review the request. Application from who? From maybe from the department that wants the new staff, requesting department. Thereafter, we receive the request, we have to do the advertisement. After we have done the advertisement, we receive the applicants. So we have to screen the applicant, then interview candidates, release letter of employment, then orientation the staff. In this CPOP, they listed the activities, the steps for recruiting new staff. Or if you don't want to use this kind of listing, you can use the flow chart as well. The flow chart, I think you are familiar with it, or inshallah in the next class, I will teach you on the quality tool how to draw the flow chart. So for the process, you can draw flow chart, but it shows step one by one. Or you can list like this. It's up to you. I like the flow chart because we can see the steps and the process next after that. And then the input, what is the input for that particular process? And after that particular process, what is the output? And then who should receive that? Maybe this diagram is not very good in terms of the arrangement. Maybe you can improve this, but I hope with this diagram can give you some information about CPOC all about. For example, review request. Review request, who give request from the department that want a new staff. So the supplier is department that wants a new staff. They give input to this process is the requisition request. Of course, they request new staff. Maybe they come up with paperwork or whatever. Input for what? To review their request by the HR department. So what is the output for this request? They are going to get new staff. New staff to whom? To the department that requesting staff. That's how we read this. Output and customer. But they have to supply the information, the request, the paperwork. Then next step, next process is they have to advertise the position, and then they have, after they advertise the application, the next step is screen the application. Advertise info position, maybe we don't have input for this, but screening application, the input is the application letter. We receive application from who? Job applicant. Job applicant give letter to the department, then our process is screen the application. Then what is the output? We screen. Maybe no output, no problem, leave like that. But interview the candidate, next step, interview the candidate. The input maybe comes from the application letter as well. After we interview, the output is next step, process employment letter. So they apply, we process employment letter. Then after we finish process, there is an output from this department. We release the employment letter. Who received that? New staff that being offered the job. Employment letter. Then they accept it. So they report duty. So then when they report duty, finance department will take action on the budget because of salary. Supplier input is a company budget. Supplier is a finance department. Then the output is payroll instruction. Finance department is the customer. Management, company policy, orientation. So the output may be payroll, personal record, and this is the person in charge. So maybe you can find out any process, then you can draw better support diagram than this one, which can show you very clearly for that particular processes, what are the input, what are the output, what are the supplier and customer. And this document is very important for you to identify who are the customer, supplier, and who are the customer. As you see here, sometimes the supplier becomes the customer as well, because they submit to this process, then this process will process and then give back to their supplier. This is about CPOC. So from your quality planning, please identify processes, then try to develop CPOC for that case. Okay,